G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today I want to do a video on, as listed, scope height. And it's, I suppose, one of the things that I'm running into recently everywhere, from comments to people standing in front of me also, but is about a process of wanting to get the scope nice and low, or not wanting to get too high. And I want to go through that and make sense of things a little bit in an engineering perspective, or in a rifle setup perspective. There's a logic that if you have your rifle scope too high, you're going to then make it harder to get on target, especially hunting and that sort of stuff. It's going to be harder with adjusting, or you're going to have bigger differences with your point of impact at your hunting ranges. And what I would say is that in point blank sort of stuff, 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, that sort of stuff, there is some issues with having your scope up further. To be truthful, if you're using a centerfire rifle for 10 yards, then probably the scope isn't really needed at that sort of level, but that's a different context. I would go into precision rifles and go into scope height and really 100 yards, 200 yards, 300 yards, sort of normal centerfire hunting distances. And in those distance, no. From the maths I have seen, and I could set up all sorts of graphs and things to go through and describe this, but I'd ask you to do it yourself or trust in what it has been done, is that your adjustment in elevation for, let's say you set up at 100 yards and you're trying to shoot at 250 yards, the adjustment in elevation for a scope that's buried down 1 inch off the barrel versus a scope that is 2.5 inches off the barrel, the 2.5 inch scope has less adjustment to do than the 1 inch scope. It's the nature of the scope angle versus the curve of the bullet. They actually line up more. And once you get out to 600 yards, 800 yards, 1,000 yards, then there's really almost nothing in it. We're talking 0.1 or less in the way of MOA. So it means that unless you're shooting point blank, your scope height, I think up to 4 inches is really not a negative, and if you're at long distance, even more than that. But it means that no, there isn't any engineering, there isn't any optical reason to have your scope super low. There's other reasons I hear. One is fitting in scope cases and that sort of stuff. Well, okay, if your scope case is the most important thing, then I understand that. And there's places where a smaller scope and smaller turrets and lower scope and that sort of stuff will work, and I understand it. I think it's probably the wrong thing to be focusing on, but I get it. I understand that of it. The other side of it is the aesthetics. And the aesthetics of it, having it look good, having it look down low to up looks silly, so down is good. My comment to go with that is that's really more what you're used to than what is a real thing. And when you get used to a scope in the position it is what you'll start to like. Different for everyone, but I wouldn't put aesthetics as a strong thing in the way of a precision rifle scope. So, the reasons to have a scope up, well, there's a little bit to do with the front end, but not too much, but I'll touch them before I get to where my conversation is really going. This rifle here, and the reason I've got this rifle here, this did have a March scope set up on it, which was set up nice and low, or low. I had to actually send them the March scope back. It was a limited time we had it here, and they needed to get it back, sort of stuff. So I swapped it over to the other scope I was going to do a little bit with that one. I'm going to do some stuff with this one and another of the Night Force scopes, which is what it's probably really going to end up wearing. My rifle, by the way, what it's going to probably end up wearing where it lives. But I put this on here to show this, but it also brought a little bit of conversation over there with Gareth, and I thought, listen, no, it's time to talk about it so people can know at least where I'm coming from. And I suppose what you can do with a scope set up like this is in an air attack base, so adjustable scope base, really the only one that I use. I don't like the vernier adjustments. This is a lock-up system. But one of the things that can happen when you tilt your scope forward is then either you can get to where you run out of clearance quickly, especially if you're running a barrel guard on the front here, so you need a bit more elevation. It's not the reason I do it, but it is one of the reasons in the initial side of things that I found myself lifting things up as well. So that can be an issue. The other side of things is in with long barrels and looking when you start to tilt your scope up and you're trying to look through barrels. So having a bit more height there can help as well. But largely, I really don't focus on this. To me, you want to be able to see properly out of it, but I don't focus on this sort of stuff here because I'm always up above those elevation points. What matters to me is this area here. This is where I believe your scope, this is where it should be set up. And the logic that goes with that is quite simple, is that the way a rifle shoots well is by making it work well with the shooter. And that's a simple thing. From everything from how the rifle behaves through recoil, to how comfortable the shooter is to when they're taking the shot, to how comfortable the rifle is to use when it comes into fatigue with whatever you're trying to do. And when you're laid down behind here, you need comfort to both perform well, but also to stay in this format and to be consistent in this format. So what do I need to be comfort? What am I talking about with comfort? Well, a few things. One is my head position. If I've got it twisted back a lot, so I've got my head twisted back a lot and I'm tilted over a lot and I'm screwing around to get into things, that's not what I call comfortable. To me, as close to straight up and down in this relaxed position here is the best I can. When I'm laying down, my jaws or my neck's extended a little bit to get on my scope, but not too much, still the comfortable point, and I'm only leaning over a little bit to the side. So I create that by largely using a cheek riser as a jaw riser more than anything. So I largely don't put things on my cheek, I'm putting them down here a little bit. It really doesn't matter what part of your face you use as long as it's comfortable and it's repeatable, it's a place you get comfortable to. The reason I go down lower is if I've got a scope here and the cheek here and I've the cheek riser here, then I've got to tilt over to make those two things work. If I've got a scope here and a cheek riser here, then I can get to here with less tilt. I can use the side of my face. Now it depends a little bit on the shape of your face, on the size of your head, all that sort of stuff, but these things largely work. But of course, in a well set up rifle, adjustable cheek riser is a very important feature, but that's one of the things. So I prefer a little bit of space there. There's another key ingredient that works with this, and I've run into this one very recently, and that is actually where your shoulder sits. Now, if you've followed my videos, or then you already know. If you haven't, then the core logic of a high power rifle, so a centerfire rifle, something with more recoil, is the way to make it shoot straight forward and back. So it doesn't rise up when it shoots, it doesn't wriggle around and do weird things or jump or that sort of stuff. Pull straight forward and back. The two most important ingredients to do that. One is that the chassis structure, the stock structure, whatever it is strong, so it stays strong and pushes straight forward and back. It transfers the load straight to that and it goes straight back down here. The next most important thing is that where it is actually leaning against is behind that line of force. If it's leaning here, that line of force will end up with the rifle pivoting over here. If it's up here, that line of force will end up where I can't do it, but it'll try and buck down. It'll actually push down on the front. So really we want it straight. Simple Newton's law, equal and opposite. We want it to be pushed back in the same place that's pushing us. So it stays straight, just goes backwards and forwards. Now that actually is not about so much, although it is relevant to where your butt pad position is, it's relevant to where your body is. Now, if you have your scope super low, then what happens with your rifle? You push it up. Now that may be because you've got a low cheek riser, but you push it up to this point, and as I've seen recently, what happens is this part of the rifle is up here, and it's actually the toe of the butt pad that's actually pushing into here. Or it can be halfway down here, wherever it is. It can be your shoulder pockets going through here and going to the middle here. But that's naturally what's going to happen when you have your scope low. If you have your scope higher, then it's going to come down. There's this position of getting onto that scope. So, and I've seen this, I should say. I've recently run this to a couple of times. People looking at getting good muzzle brakes, which to try and stop muzzle rise. Now there are muzzle brakes that stop muzzle rise. I find they introduce other negative features. I prefer a muzzle brake that pushes straight forward and back. So my comment is, as I would have said before, you really want a rifle to shoot in a proper form, straight forward and back without a muzzle brake, and the muzzle brake goes on to stop how much it pushes, not to redirect where it goes. So the way to do that is to get this shooting in the right position, and that is best caused by actually setting up your scope to the right place. So you want your butt pad in the right place, you want scope in the right place, you want cheek rest in the right place. It's all a combination. And of course, that's the story always. Good things aren't made out of lots of good / expensive bits and pieces bolted together. No, good things are made out of, things perform well out of bolting a good combination together. Sometimes you might see a cheap, crappy bit in someone's rig. You'll probably find it's there for a reason. It's because it works the best. I'm not saying you all need a cheap, crappy bit. I am saying it's about combination. Whether that's a $1,000 rig or that's a $25,000 rig. The price tag is only attached to the quality of the individual bits and pieces. The actual quality of it is in the combination of those bits and pieces. And this is actually a key ingredient. So I suppose what I'm trying to leave that with is the folks that are getting the scope down low because they like it nice and low because it should be nice and low or because it looks cool nice and low. My comment is adjust that a little bit. What makes a rifle shoot well is down here. Obviously, it's the shooter. You want his eyeball in the right place. You want that to match up with his shoulder and his cheek rest and everything to match up. And up here, really, I don't care about it. As long as it works, it doesn't matter. Down the back here, really, really does. And you'll find, as said, there are positions. They are from saw necks to bad rifle performance to irregular groups. I suppose it comes back to my normal format. My normal comment would be what the rifle does on a good day. What your best group is, in my opinion, isn't really what the group is. It's what your average day or what your poor day. That's the one you're working on. That's the one you want to get down. If you're into winning competitions, getting that one right is what wins competitions. Well, any consistency. You know, there are the also runs that win occasionally when everyone else falls off or luck strikes, lightning strikes twice or whatever it is type thing. But largely you're good people, largely the people who perform well, largely the people who are good at hunting, largely the people are good at their job. It's because they perform still well on their bad days. And that's where some of this sort of stuff comes from. And I suppose that also moves into another comment I heard in a conversation over the last year or so. Someone's talking about that fact that a lot of guys keep their scope down low because their tall bags, and this is bench rest shooting, their tall bags and bits and pieces mean that if they put their scope higher, they really got to stretch their necks. And what that says to me, it says probably your whole setup is a little bit out of whack. Your tall bag, your bag rider, other bits and pieces are up tall, and then you're forcing things to get that. Obviously, in a heavy bench rest gun where your shoulder position is nothing more than a little bit of a handbrake, it's less an issue. But really, this thing is, as said, about the whole combination. From your platform, from the ground you're laying on to the scope at the top and everything in between, everything front and back, and the shooter, is all very relevant to how this actually happens. And my form is both comfort, combination and training are things that you need to make all this happen. Anyway, hope that didn't cause too many sad feelings about scopes that are too low down. And if it works for you or you've got the perfect reason that makes it work, I understand it. This video is really to say, probably have another look, have a think about it, look at it properly. And if you're setting it up, having a bit of height in your scope, making it work to you. And I should say that doesn't mean higher is better. It means right is right. Right is better. So getting that combination of comfort, getting neck comfort, getting it to work, getting to where it shoots to the right place, not too high, but to the right place here, can be involved in getting your scope to the right height. Anyway, guys, that's it for this one. Keep in mind, we do all this sort of stuff out of our pockets or out of the meager budget that this channel can generate. We get almost nothing from YouTube, so if you can donate to us, if you can help us, if you can support us, please do. If you like the video, like, share, subscribe, really helps on that side of things. Hit the notification bell, that really does, and we want to try and make the channel grow. And also check over on our web store. We have lots of products which I have developed to try and improve my comfort combination platform and make my shooting better. So check over there. We sell some of that stuff there. We also have support bits there as well. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for checking in on us. Hope you liked the video. Cheers, and we'll catch you next time.